Two old friends who've lost touch reunite for a cathartic dinner in a fancy Manhattan restaurant. During that dinner, many topics of discussion are brought up, such as spirituality, crises of faith, the comforts of familiarity, and the meaning of life. Why are we here if not to enjoy the ride? What is the role of art in the grand scheme of existence? All this and more in the 1981 drama My Dinner with Andre. I'm Connor Eyzaguirre,
I'm Colton Jenkins.
and this is Filmgazm. Welcome to the Filmgazm podcast. Our subject today is the critically acclaimed drama My Dinner with Andre, which Colton requested along with another film we'll be doing soon. So where did the decision to tackle this classic discussion film come from?
So I've noticed that throughout my life, if I'm watching different shows, I kept hearing references to a movie called My Dinner with Andre. Like there's a gag in Family Guy where I don't think part of a house blows up and inside someone is eating dinner with Andre the Giant, or references here and there, here and there. And then finally, of course, as all scumbags my age in this time and time do, I was scrolling through TikTok and I saw this person who was like, you should watch this movie called Dinner with Andre. It's really, really good. And as soon as I saw Dinner with Andre, I remembered all those moments. I swiped past the video. I didn't watch it. And I Googled it and I saw that it was a conversation between two friends. And I did think it was going to be about food, and I was very wrong. But I'm kind of glad I was wrong. This was a very interesting movie. So that's where it came from. It's weird because this movie I've been seeing references my entire life, not knowing what they're talking about. And I finally watched it.
Same here. I'd heard about this movie for years. Just I think there's a Rick and Morty episode called Mort Dinner Rick Andre or something like that. It's so ingrained in pop culture, and I think a lot of people in our generation have either never heard of the real thing or just don't care. And I get that. This is a hard film to sell to people. Two old friends playing themselves, talking about life for 2 hours. Nothing happens. There's no plot. There's no climax. There's no tension or anything. It's just a conversation and some side eye from a waiter. That's pretty much the whole movie.
The way that I could see this movie being sold today, if you're listening to this podcast, I assume you like listening to podcasts. This movie, treat it like a podcast. I feel that's honestly how I got through it. I didn't think I'm watching a movie. I was like, oh, I'm watching, The Basement Yard or something like that, So yeah,
it is a lot of the Letterboxd reviews when I was looking through them for what's in the box. A lot of them call this movie the first podcast.
Yeah, very. That makes a lot of sense.
It is. It's interesting. It's a revered film in the film community. It made a big splash on the indie film scene in the 80s. It was written to be a play, which you can very much tell. This was supposed to be two guys, a table on a stage, but it became a movie.
I feel honestly, this movie might be even more, I don't want to say insufferable, because this movie wasn't that bad in the back half. It would be painful if this was a play.
My God. Yeah. I can't imagine this being a great first date.
Oh God, no. Hey, I got tickets to Dinner with Andre. Oh yay.
1981. What else do we got? We got Raiders of the Lost Ark. We got Chariots of Fire. There are options in 1981, but you chose to take your date to My Dinner with Andre. I don't.
Speaking of Raiders of the Lost Ark, did you know that Wallace Shawn is younger than Harrison Ford?
I'm surprised.
I know. Yeah. In this movie, he looked like you. I don't want to be rude. but he looked like he was like in his 50s, 40s, maybe.
Wallace Shawn has always looked unique. He has a look. He has a very specific voice. You immediately hear, Rex from Toy Story as soon as he opens his mouth.
Yeah.
And then I like the guy. He's one of my favorite character actors.
Oh, yeah.
He pops up in a lot of different stuff, and his roots are along with Andre Gregory are in the stage, and these two guys were stage friends who decided to do a movie because Wallace Shawn was doing movies now. And this movie just kind of appeared and stayed. There's nothing really special about it. There's nothing memorable about it, but it's always been there and it's not going away. And it's still influencing pop culture in a strange way. I think
a lot of it
to quantify.
Yeah. I think a lot of it affects pop culture because of exactly that. It's such an interesting movie, and it's there is no reason this movie should have. I don't know how well it did, but I assume because it's all over the place.
It did very well.
Yeah, but there is no reason a movie like this should do well. I think there is something to be said about like the soul searching, finding yourself, listening, being present aspect of this movie. But there's a lot of movies like that today. Like one of my favorites of all, well, there's actually two, but my all-time favorite. Have you seen The Secret Life of Walter Mitty?
I have, yes.
That movie is so good, and it has basically the same message. Be true to yourself, whatever. But another one that I like, but I do enjoy the book more is Into the Wild. Have you seen that or read that?
I have not, because I do not respect that guy's decision to do what he did.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. It is a very stupid decision. No one should ever do that. That guy was a fucking idiot. But I think, how do I put this? His ideas, I get his ideas, but it was the follow through that was awful. like do what Andre did. Go to Poland. Do that instead.
People who say like that we've lost touch with reality because we're not like living off the land, but then they go to live off the land without knowing how to live off the land. To me, that's just like, well, bye-bye.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no sympathy for that. I feel the same way about the Grizzly Man. Who, told everybody, oh, grizzly bears are warm, kind animals. You just have to treat them with respect. And what happened to him? He was gored to death by a grizzly bear. Yeah, of course he was. So I think if you're going to do that shit, know what you're doing and, come back alive.
Yeah, but the thing is, he didn't start small. He burnt his Social Security card, cut up his credit cards, got rid of his money, and then he was like, yeah, I'm going to walk from Florida to Alaska. I'll walk. That's not starting small, man.
You ever see the movie Wild with Reese Witherspoon?
No.
It's a very similar story. It's about a woman who cheated on her husband, destroyed her marriage, got clean off of drugs, and then decided to do this like giant nationwide hike alone. Ugh. And she did it. Like she learned what to do correct. Like she brought the essentials. She learned along the way. She made friends. She was safe about it. She was smart about it and accomplished it and became a writer, told her story. The book became a movie. See, she read, Hiking for Dummies or whatever the fuck and like knew what to do.
Yeah, she studied. He didn't.
Yeah. Her story is more inspirational to me because, she did it. She learned something. She found herself or whatever that is. And, I liked the movie. I'll watch Into the Wild eventually, but I'm going to go in thinking, you fucking idiot.
He's a fucking, the thing is the fucking asshole gets to Alaska. And he says, I think, how long did it was a year, I think, or 6 months. I don't remember how long, but he gets stuck there because he gets too weak to go on. But he made it there. Once you make it there, you're done. The journey is complete. But no, he said he wanted to walk to Alaska and live in the wild for, I forget how long. And also, apparently, if he had walked a couple more miles north, there was a hunter's cabin up there. Like, dude.
the guy, Sean Penn, who made that movie, I know he wants us to feel bad for this guy, to take something away from this guy's story. And the only thing I'm taking away is bring a jacket. Shit gets cold up north. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. So these stories about finding yourself or understanding your place in the world, or quantifying art as something that we like almost inflict upon one another. It's such a weird stance that some people take. It's almost like some people have this innate desire to like be the one who has all the answers. Like they have to be the one to figure everything out and preach it to the world. And I kind of hate people with that mentality. Like, can't you just enjoy the ride? Why do you got to be the guy that claims you have all the answers?
Yeah. And then also like that's very much also like the people, the film snobs that critique this movie. Like, oh, this movie's about this. Oh, this movie's about this. The same thing, like, I love going to art museums, but that's because I like looking at the pretty pictures. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I've tried to sit there. Like Jackson Pollock, I like looking at his work, but I've tried to sit there looking at that giant one, at the Met, I think it's at, it's at the MoMA. I've tried sitting there and looking at it, and people around me are like, oh yes, obviously this means this, or do you see how the stroke of his paint did this? And I'm like, I've tried. I've sat there for like an hour staring at this painting. Like, I don't get any feeling from it. I don't get it. I just like looking at it.
I fucking despise Jackson Pollock. Like with all of my being. Yeah. Like that is not talent. I can throw paint on a canvas too. No one's buying my shit for $10 million. My favorite, I don't know if I told this on the podcast, but this is like my favorite art story ever. It's just so perfect. Jackson Pollock was doing he was hosting a gallery of his work. And he had one painting that I think was just like all different shades of blue. And like right near the middle, there was like a little flick of red. And every art critic there was trying to figure out like, what does the red mean? Some people were like, oh, that's his fury against the world that doesn't respect him as an artist, or it's his rage towards his wife. And then somebody just straight up asked Jackson Pollock, like, what is the red? And he's like, oh shit, I must have dripped some red paint on that while I was doing this other one.
Oh my God. That's great.
Fucking meaningless.
Mm-hmm.
It's people try to, people seek to find meaning in everything, because why else are we here if it doesn't, if there's no meaning? And I get that. I understand that.
Yeah.
But can't you just like lay back and just accept that we're here and we can do whatever we want to do as long as we're here and just enjoy it? And, I stopped looking for meaning a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I think I have a much more freeing life than I could have. Like I know I have friends who are deeply religious and think they know where things are going, and I just look at them do all this ritualistic shit, and I'm like, I feel like they're just wasting it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I do think, I don't know. I feel that way the same way, but I don't know how to say any of this without like sounding like I'm trying to be snobby or anything. But like, just for an example, I have a feeling you probably lean more toward the side of Wally in the movie.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So I do too, but sometimes Andre would say something, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense, because I try to be like, I'm trying to be more spiritual. I want to be more like, right now I'm reading a book about Buddhism, and it's very interesting to me. And I really do like that spiritual side. And I want to find not my purpose. I guess, yeah, I'm trying to find like my purpose and my meaning, but that doesn't mean that there's a meaning to everything. I think everyone can have their own thing. And if you just want to like chill, you just want to exist here, that is perfectly okay. And you should be allowed to accept that. There doesn't need to be a deeper meaning to why we're here and any of that bullshit. That's why, like, have you seen Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
I have not. I saw it like when I was a kid. I don't remember it at all.
But like the thing in it where it's like, what is the meaning? Oh, what's the answer to the universe? And it's 42.
Yeah, I've heard. Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, it's just so funny. But it's funny that like yeah, like art critics are annoying because I used to do that spray paint art, like and anyone can do that. People like assholes have come up to my booth while I'm selling my art and like, oh, I can do this shit. Or like on my Instagram, people are like, oh, you're doing shit that everyone can do. I know, I get that, but I've had people come up to me during events and like, oh, like just like your like emotion, like what were you feeling during this? I don't fucking know. I painted outer space because I like outer space. Do you want to buy a painting?
I admire anybody who can, create something, whether that be, making a film, writing a book, painting something, like, you know, handcrafting a t-shirt, whatever it is.
Yeah.
If you can harness your, desire for meaning and, channel it into art, I think you have more to say than anybody on this planet. And regardless of what medium that might be, I've always had more respect for artists than anyone on earth, and that's why I've tried to surround myself with artists. Everybody I know, for the most part, is artistic in some capacity, and I always try to encourage that for people. Because like me, I write. That's what I do. Whether that be film reviews or books or short stories or something, that's how I try to find something in this world.
Yeah, exactly.
And this podcast has given me a channel to just kind of express my thoughts using these various films as a conduit. We spend, I'd say with most of these episodes, we spend a good, let's say, 45 minutes actually talking about the movie. The rest of the time is just tangents about life that just kind of happen. Whether that be, if I'm recording with you or Caleb or Austin, it always happens that way. And those are my favorite part of doing it. It's the spontaneous, crazy ass conversations that just happen out of nowhere because of the nature of this thing.
Yeah.
I live for that shit. I live for spontaneous human interaction. And I love how this is kind of becoming a My Dinner with Andre conversation.
It is. I was just about to say that is exactly what, like in the metaphor of like the beehive at the beginning, spontaneous human interaction. That's exactly what it is. Just less pretentious. That's all. Yeah.
We're fully aware of what this is. We're not trying to impress anybody, which is a big difference.
Yeah.
That's why, New York theater people are probably the worst at that kind of stereotype. Like they all talk like that. They all think like that. They all act like that.
They do. Yeah.
It's outrageous. Not so much these days, but in the 80s, oh boy. That was, the age of, a chorus line and all that jazz and shit like that. Like they were all just, fussy. So thankfully, like I've been to New York. I've seen a couple Broadway plays. It's fun. There's definitely a unique energy about that kind of performance.
Yeah.
But I prefer film. I don't know what it is. I prefer, something. Film is captured. It's always going to be that. Sure, you'll take something away from it if you watch something multiple times, most likely, but the actual work exists forever in that way. And I like that kind of snapshot of life. Like I watched, like a film like The Gold Rush, Charlie Chaplin, 1925. That film's almost 100 years old, was thought missing for decades. A copy was found in a private collection, which was then used to restore it fully by the Criterion Collection. And that is the copy I now have on Blu-ray that I can watch whenever I want. And it's always going to be Charlie Chaplin doing hilarious shit on the mountain during the Gold Rush. It's hard to explain, but it's magic to me.
Yeah. I definitely agree. I do like films more than plays. Like I lived in New York City. I've seen like you Broadway plays. And they're very different than movies. They're always, and it also seems like every single one of them has to have a message, which is great, but there doesn't need to be one. Like I saw the Lion King show, which is amazing. It's the costumes were great, the music was great, everything about it was great, the set design. But when it was over, I was like, awesome. This was literally the Lion King, and I definitely still prefer the movie, or the animated one, not the live action one. The live action one sucked, but the only thing that I really liked about the play was the costumes and the set. Everything else was exactly the same as the movie. And the movie I can watch whenever I want. The play, it's nice. I'm one of those assholes, unfortunately, who, like, if I go on vacation, I don't like to have a camera. Like in Walter Mitty when the snow leopard shows up and he's like, "Oh, I don't want to take a picture." I'm one of those assholes, unfortunately. But sometimes, yeah, it's nice to have it, and you can't do that with a Broadway show, but you can have it with, the Disney Plus account.
I'm the same way. I don't take pictures when I'm on vacation. I just enjoy the moment. I'm never gonna like look back at these and be like, oh, remember that time I was standing over there? Like,
Yeah,
no, I was there. I remember that time. I don't need photographic evidence of it. And I know no one else on earth wants to look at these pictures because, newsflash, no one gives a fuck about a vacation they didn't go on.
yeah, exactly.
I've been to New York one time. I saw Jersey Boys and Chicago, and they were great. Both of them were great. When I saw Chicago, I saw literally the most gorgeous woman I've ever seen in person in that, like, in the show. She was one of the, like, you know, stocking clad dancer girls, and she was goddamn. I think about that woman at least once a week. Like, she was the hottest human being I've ever seen in person. Anyway, and then I've been to the West End in London, and there I got to see Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the musical, and Back to the Future, the musical. And Back to the Future was a singular experience because that was not a musical, stage play made to try to sell something or sell an idea. That was, look how much this movie fucking rocks. Let's celebrate it together. And I loved that. I felt a palpable energy when I saw that. Everyone in that theater loved this movie as much as I did, including the people on stage. And that was magical. That was one of the greatest experiences of my life. So it can be done. People find magic in the theater, just like people find magic in paintings and books and, graffiti, whatever's your thing. I'm just more film oriented, but it is cool when I can have that kind of experience in another medium, and it doesn't happen often.
Yeah. Like, you mentioned another medium. I convinced you to get a copy of Blood Meridian. Have you started reading that yet?
I have not yet. I started reading a book about the Oscars, but it's going pretty slow. I may put it down.
Not the Oscars?
I want some fiction. I randomly select books to read from the giant collection of books that I've accumulated that I need to start making a dent in. So I've randomly drawn like 3 nonfiction books in a row, and I'm getting I'm jonesing for some fiction. So I think I'm just gonna say fuck it and read Blood Meridian.
Yeah. Blood Meridian, I have never had a more visceral reaction reading anything until I read Blood Meridian. That is such a depraved, depressing book. That I've never had that reaction reading anything until I read that. But movies, I've had a couple reactions like that. I can't think of any right now. The one that comes to mind is, I know people say it's a pretentious movie. I think it's really good. Joker. Like, the part when he kills the dude in his apartment. Oh my God. I don't know what it is about that scene, but I get like a pit in my stomach, and like that scene is the hardest scene in the movie to watch to me.
I thought Joker was good. I've only seen it once. I haven't revisited it. I thought it was a little derivative of 2 classic movies I do adore. So I was kind of like, you're just making Taxi Driver with a little
Taxi Driver, King of Comedy. Yeah. Yeah.
But I did like it. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. Joker 2 is coming out next year. I'll use that as an excuse to rewatch Joker. I actually had quite an experience with a film last night. That I was not expecting. I watched a film called The Vanishing from 1988. It's a Dutch film that is one of the eeriest, most uncomfortable movies I've ever sat through, and the entire movie is just, what the hell happened to this woman? It's so brilliant. This guy and this couple are on vacation. They're driving through, I think it was France, They stop at a gas station. The lady goes in the store for drinks, and she doesn't come back.
Oof.
And the guy's like, where the hell did she go? He looks around. People remember seeing her. Some people say that she left with some guy. And 3 years pass, and he never found her. And he's obsessed with it. His current girlfriend can't deal with this obsession and leaves him. And he's still like, I need to know. And he makes a plea on TV. Like, I don't know what happened. I don't know where she went. I think she was taken. If you're watching this and you did it, I don't want to press charges. I don't want to come after you. I just want to know what happened. And the guy who did it comes up to him at one point and says, it was me. And I'll tell you what I did. You just got to come with me. And this guy, the guy who did it, is one of the scariest movie villains I've ever seen, because he's just a dude who one day recognized that he has no conscience and is capable of anything, and decides to think of the most horrible thing he can do to somebody and see if he can do it. And turns out he can. And the idea of that kind of randomness, of some guy just deciding, like, I'm going to do something horrific today just to see if I can do it. I mean, holy shit. That got into my head. And then you find out what happened, and it's the most gut-wrenching, horrifying shit that you can do to somebody.
Holy shit, dude.
It was a fantastic, brilliant thriller. They remade it in America, but I think they changed the ending because the ending is way too fucked up for America. So they had to change that. But The Vanishing, 1988. If you ever get a chance to check that out, it is
1988.
Yeah, fantastic movie.
Holy shit.
Mm-hmm. I won't spoil the ending for you because the ending is very much like, wow. So, but great movie. And the whole time I was just thinking, I was having this like glued to the screen, thinking about my life. You know, what if I, was with a friend and we ran into some crazy guy who's just like, I'm going to kill these people, but I'm going to do it really fucked up. And one of them's not going to know about it for 3 years. Like, Jesus Christ, man.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. So yeah, I love finding those. There's so much shit out there, but if you can find movies that are going to like drill into your soul and stay there, it's worth the journey. Oh God, yes. It's so worth the journey.
Yes.
Oh, this is fun. We barely talked about My Dinner with Andre, but
that's right. We're doing a podcast.
Okay. So my question for you. This is an interesting question. I'm curious where this is going to go. What was the last truly profound discussion you had with somebody? Like, not through text, but like a real discussion.
Oh, shit.
I know, right? You wonder.
I'm sorry. I'm sure I've had more since this point, but anytime I think about those types of conversations, I think back to this time. If my parents are listening, they're gonna fucking kill me. And if these people and their parents are listening, they're gonna kill them and me. But when I was in high school, a senior, my parents and brother went they went away for a weekend. And I took this opportunity because I was a pretty good kid. I wasn't like, I didn't get like fantastic grades, but I didn't like do anything like crazy in like troublesome or anything. So I decided I'm going to take this weekend and I'm going to, I'm leaving home soon. So I'm going to have a couple friends over. So I invited one of my best friends, well, actually two of my best friends, to come over. And I didn't know this, but they both brought shrooms. I didn't partake because I just didn't want to. But they both did. One of them just passed out, tired. He didn't die or anything. He was tired. But the other one, we went outside to my patio, and this is when I was living in New York City. And the patio It overlooked the ocean and one of the bridges in New York City.
Damn.
And one of the best views ever, right? So we actually climbed up on the balcony. We actually got on the roof of the apartment building, and we sat there from like, I don't know, 10 o'clock at night all the way until the sun came up. And the discussion started because I asked a question about a jellyfish. I was like, how did jellyfish get around? And he's tripping behind, like, next to me. And we had this long conversation about life and like what it means to love someone, what what we're going to do in our lives, what we want to do, our dreams, aspirations. And it was just one of the best conversations. And this is really corny, but when the sun came up, I actually cried. It was great. He cried too, but we both cried. Not sad. I don't. It wasn't even happy. It was just, we finally laid out our souls, basically, and yeah, it was really wonderful. And I think about that night all the time. And every time I see a jellyfish, I think about it, and it's awesome. It's wonderful.
Damn, that's beautiful, man. That's a great memory.
Yeah.
And also in New York City. That's cool.
Yeah. No. What about you?
Well, I'll leave this person's name out of it because I don't know how much they want to be, like, they want to air personal stuff, but I got no problem. I mean, so this was about a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'd reconnected with a college friend, and they came over to my place, and we watched some movies. My usual ritual with whoever's in my apartment, I'll show them something cool, and they'll be like, "Oh, that was great," or "That sucked," and then won't tell me it sucked. They'll just go like, "Oh, that was fine." Yeah, I've learned to read this person. So like when they tell me like, "Oh, that was interesting," that means that was horrible. Pick something else. But we were talking about we ended up talking about relationships, and they've had some rough relationships in the past, some bad eggs. And I have a very bare relationship history, so I didn't have a lot to tell, but what I did tell, connected, and then I started sharing really personal stuff in a way that I had never really done before with anybody. And I had a feeling she was doing the same. Like there was a connection there that I had never really felt with somebody before, and it was interesting. And she stayed there for like 4 or 5 hours. We're just talking about our lives and like decisions we've made and mistakes we've made and people we wished we hadn't met or people we wished we talked to more, and like where our lives were going, because we were both at kind of a turning point. And when she eventually left around 1 a.m., 2 a.m., like I felt closer to that person than I've felt almost to anybody. And we've since become like very close and tried to stay in each other's lives. And I have a great deal of admiration and personal love for this person because of how honest I've been able to be with her. Like we're not romantically involved or anything, but I'm grateful I know this person because they've helped me just kind of realize some things about myself and about my relationships with people. And I think I'm all the better for it. So shout out to, like, if you're listening to this, you know who you are. And just thank you.
That was great. That's great. Yeah. Oh, this is becoming Dinner with Andre.
Isn't it? Yeah, it is. Except, we're not, I don't know, defending Nazis or whatever the fuck Andre was doing that one time.
Dude, I texted you when that happened. I was like, is he a Nazi?
Yeah, it's like, that would, if I was Wallace Shawn in that moment, I would have been like, yeah, check. I'll take the check. Now I remember why I haven't talked to you for 10 years.
Yeah. I was, for the whole movie, I was expecting like a big, like, twist. Like he was going to pull out a gun and shoot him in that, like something. I was expecting something.
I know, the amount of films we've watched, the amount of American films specifically we watch, we're trained to expect conflict, something, anything. So when we don't get it, when they just get up and leave, it's like, well, fuck. What? You feel a little cheated, but the more you think about it, you're like, yeah, all right, touche.
Yeah. Wow, this
This
got
is,
really deep.
I know this was a good pick, man.
I do like
Yeah.
I do like having those conversations, like really deep. Like I basically like I think that's why I really liked this movie. Was because I do enjoy having those types of conversations with people. I think they're really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, back when we were doing Oscar Sunday, whenever Austin and I, and still to this day, like whenever it's just Austin and I, every episode turns into one of those conversations. Somehow we go deep into each other's psyches and just talk about really personal shit that somehow comes out with the movie. Like I remember when we did Kramer versus Kramer, that movie reminded me so much of my relationship with my father that it just kind of all just came out. And like that was cathartic. I started crying a little bit. Like
Ooh.
that was a big one. And Austin's had those moments too. And I really value every episode I've done with that guy because he brings something out in me that even I can't do.
Yeah.
That I'm very grateful for. So yeah, I know he's going to listen to this one. So again, thank you. Oh yeah, this is it's a nice kind of happy bonus.
Yeah. I feel like we should be eating quail.
Yeah, or whatever that potato soup was.
Yeah,
Did it seem weird to you that they served the salads after the entree?
that was really weird.
Yeah,
Maybe as like a palate cleanser before dessert or something.
I guess I've been to like restaurants that fancy like once or twice in my life.
Yeah.
So I don't know how it works. I'm a, chips and queso before the meal kind of guy. That's as fancy as I usually get. So
There you go.
I don't know where the bread fork goes or whatever. There's no bread fork.
The bread fork.
See, yeah, that's how cultured I am. All right, let's talk about how this film came about. My Dinner with Andre was written by its two stars, Wallace Shawn and Andre Gregory, who played fictionalized versions of themselves and made it very clear in an interview with Roger Ebert that they are not playing themselves. They're playing fictional characters who happen to have the same names as themselves, which is unnecessarily complicated. And now they're going to have to explain that every time somebody starts talking about this movie.
Yeah. The same names, the same jobs, the same wives.
Yeah. It's like, are you sure you just, I feel like that's Andre covering for the Nazi shit. Like, no, it's not me.
No,
it's just kind of me.
Yeah. There was a movie that did do that. Have you seen The Endless?
No.
Okay. First of all, wow. Great movie. It's a horror movie, kind of. No, it's not. It's a thriller. It's about these two brothers who escaped a cult when they were little, and they get a videotape in the mail that says, "Hey, we are going to begin our ascension, so we don't want you to come back into the cult, but we would like it if you stopped by to say goodbye." And one of the brothers is like, "Okay," and the other brother is like, "No," but eventually he gets pressured and they go. And this cult, you're expecting them to be bad people. They are not. They are very nice, very kind. They legitimately just wanted to say bye. But there is a twist at the end of the movie that I will not spoil here because I think it is one of the greatest cult movies ever made. But the two main characters are named what the actors are called.
I will put that on the list. I'm intrigued.
You should. It's very good.
I always find it weird when actors play characters with the same, like The Shining, for instance. Jack Nicholson playing Jack Torrance.
Yeah.
Was there did he get too into the head of that character? Because he's like, well, he's Jack and I'm Jack, so maybe this is what Jack would do.
Yeah, I can see him sitting in the street just saying Jack over and over again. Jack, Jack. What would Jack do? I'm Jack.
I can see that too.
He'll have like that scene in Spider-Man 1 with the Green Goblin talking to Norman Osborn, but it's the same person,
Me, your greatest creation. Yeah, I can see that. That's fantastic. It works. It can sometimes work really well. Like, you ever see This Is the End?
Yes, that was really well done.
Yeah, bunch of Hollywood comedic actors playing themselves when the apocalypse hits, and how they got to hole up and figure out what to do next. And they all kind of lose their fucking minds.
It's funny too because they were all playing like they're playing themselves, but it's caricatures of themselves.
Usually they, whenever somebody does something like that, they enhance their characters' more unlikable qualities to make almost like a tongue-in-cheek reference to, any time they might have been referred to as difficult or something. Interesting. So this is how this story came about. In the early 1980s, Andre Gregory, theater guy, was looking to get back into the theater after a hiatus, asked his friend Wallace Shawn if he wanted to collaborate on a project. And Shawn, having started a film career recently, saw the project as being a film instead of a play because he thought, possibly going back to the theater might be seen as a step backwards in his career at that point. And Andre was not picky, I guess. And the story came from Andre wanting to tell the story of where he'd been and what he'd seen, contrasted with Wallace Shawn's more humanistic approach to life. So they're playing themselves.
Oh wow! So
let's just get that out of here right now. They're playing themselves. So I don't know how much of this was like, made up and how much of it really happened. Like, did he really get like baptized in some like singulistic faith or something like that? Or did he really like wander through the Sahara? I don't know.
But one of my favorite things about this movie is he would say the most outlandish, out of pocket shit, like when he was like, oh yeah, these people they burnt this flag that had the Tibetan swastika on it, and people, I saw a creature made of purple lilacs in the corner of my eye, and like you said, Wallace just like, oh wow, okay.
I love how many like oh that's crazy Wally does in the first half of this movie. Like, wow, that's like he's relaying like, you are so full of shit just constantly the whole time. Like, no, you didn't. No, you did not like almost be killed by a demonic flag. Shut the fuck up, Andre.
Yeah, that's what I like about it. Because it really seemed like if I was in the same seat as Wally, that's exactly how I would be reacting. His facial expressions, what he's saying, and the fact that he was like, I'm going to get through this dinner by asking him questions. He was doing what I do when I'm talking to someone that I don't want to. My eyes glaze over and I'm like, oh, wow, yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, that's great. But then as the movie went on and the more crazy and philosophical shit Andre said, like Wally like couldn't help but pay attention. And he agreed with some things, disagreed with more things. But I thought that was really interesting how like you could tell that you just got like pulled into Andre.
Well, the ending, like the second half of the film almost feels like it's a spiteful retaliation. Like, you dumped so much of your nonsense into my head tonight that I'm not leaving this table until I force my nonsense into your head.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it felt like. It's like, like you think life is so black and white. Well, I'm here to tell you that sometimes you just got to enjoy it a little bit. And not everybody here can just go to fucking Tibet and do whatever they want. They find enjoyment through art. I like that. And I understand that point of view more than like having a endless trust fund where you can just go get baptized in some faith whenever you want.
Yes, exactly. You got to find the journey is in the little things, man.
Yeah, I love how like his commitment to the electric blanket. Like, I'm not giving that up for anything because it makes me. It's cold. Damn it.
Weird tangent. Why haven't they come up with like a cooling blanket? Because my AC in my apartment fucking sucks. I would kill for a cooling blanket.
I don't know. I've thought about that with like cars. There's always heated seats, but there's no cooled seats.
Yes, there are.
That's a thing now?
My parents have them. Yes.
Oh, well, that's good. Finally some good news.
Yeah.
Well, shit. All right. Maybe I just, I'm not working with the best, tax bracket in terms of cars. Yeah. That's probably why I don't have Andre. That. Yeah. I'm Wally taking the bus.
What's that thing in BoJack Horseman when it's like, oh, you're not a fuck. It was a thing like, oh, you're being such a Susan. You're not a. I don't know.
I never watched BoJack Horseman.
Oh, never mind. But yeah, it's like, oh, of course they would do that. They're such an Andre. Or,
yeah.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. They're such a Wally. Of course. Cool guy.
I was talking about this with somebody at work the other day about like her stepmother or somebody is like comes from money. So whenever somebody has a problem, they're always just like, well, why don't you just like get yourself a Mercedes or something like that? It's like that's not an option for most people. Like that's
What
not
the fuck?
yeah, people who live in this like fairy tale world where, mommy and daddy gave them everything they ever wanted, and so they never learned how to function in a real society, just live in this cloud where, oh, your problems are bad. Oh, go to Fiji. You'll be fine.
You gotta
Like,
be
yeah. Gee, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah. Oh man, that would. You know that saying, "Money doesn't buy you happiness." I beg to fucking differ, and I will continue to beg for differ.
That is the most horseshit saying ever made. Like, money absolutely buys happiness.
Yes, dude. Yes. Well, if you're really rich, what would you
Yeah.
want? Nothing. That's the point.
Yeah. I heard somebody once say that being poor is super expensive.
Yes.
Yeah, because like, I can't afford to go to the dentist this month, so next month I have to pay for, fucking root canal. Like, yeah, people don't think about that. But, it's not just, I pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Like people just are stepped on in this world. Most people are stepped on. And I'm honestly surprised we have not yet had a French Revolution style coup and started eating these fuckers.
It fucking blows my mind, dude. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about how me and you both stand politically, man. Like, yeah, like it's all about just keeping the rich and the poor people poor. That's it.
The weirdest thing about it is that like we're so conditioned in this country to think like, well, one day I might be a billionaire, and then I don't want to deal with tax cuts or tax, tax.
Yeah,
taxes. There we go. I was trying to think of like there's a word here, but fuck it. Yeah. That is so crazy. Like you will never be a billionaire. I'm sorry to burst your bubble here, but that's never going to happen. You're never going to create something that is going to take over the world. It's just not going to happen.
Yep.
You are closer to being completely destitute than you are ever to being a billionaire. So get on board with the rest of us and start dragging them out of their mansions and beating them in the street.
Exactly. Like, yeah. Like the submarine thing. Yeah, it's sad. People died. Yeah. But I'm not going to sit here and cry about it because if the situation was reversed, they wouldn't give a shit.
Yeah. Let them eat cake and all that jazz.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
The rich, throughout all of recorded history, as soon as somebody invented the fucking dollar, there was somebody taking it away from somebody else.
Yeah, exactly.
They've never cared about us. They never will. But anyway, I don't know how we got there. But yeah. So while searching for a director, Shawn got a phone call from French director Louis Malle, who had obtained a copy of the screenplay from a mutual friend. And Malle was an Oscar-nominated filmmaker who had just done the epic gangster drama Atlantic City a year prior, and he wanted to direct My Dinner with Andre. Or if they didn't feel he was a suitable choice, he wanted to be a producer. He wanted to be involved. Which is pretty cool when you're just developing some movie with your buddy and a famous French director calls and says, I want in.
Yeah, but also, like, how did you get this movie? Like, hey, I want to direct a movie. Wow. Fuck, I don't. What if I don't know. I feel like that would be a lot of pressure, honestly, to live up to.
Well, also, like, not every movie has the, like, the Marvel, like, vault where they, have one script that you, like, have to type in a keypad on Wednesday and the code's always changing and you have to walk into this room with 2 guards and you can read 3 pages. Not every film has that. Most films are just, like, written in a notebook and passed around to people in the same industry.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
And this French guy was like, well, this sounds interesting. This sounds just French enough for me to be invested.
Yeah. Hey, I can do this.
And actually, like Atlantic City is a great movie. I've seen that. It's an awesome gangster flick with Burt Lancaster and Susan Sarandon. Very much recommend that. It's a good movie. Very much about like Atlantic City's changing from, the cool kind of Frank Sinatra place of the 60s to just a seedy fucking underbelly nasty place in the 80s. And there's this old time gangster who never really hit it big, who's having trouble dealing with this change. So he gets involved in a coke situation that threatens his whole life. And yeah, it's good.
I'm such a fat ass. You said a coke situation. I was like, what? What's wrong with Diet Coke? What's wrong with Coca-Cola?
You see Coke's trying to muscle in to Atlantic City, and Pepsi's not having that shit. So he gets in the middle of this. No, it's a lot of cocaine. A lot of cocaine.
That's great.
Oh, so Louis Mal came on board, made this movie, and they just kind of, found a place to build a restaurant set, and the rest was history. Despite being fairly niche, My Dinner with Andre was a big success, grossing about $5 million on a budget of about $475,000. So, yeah, for 1981, that's pretty good money.
Good.
It has an IMDb score of 7.7, Rotten Tomatoes score of 92%. It was welcomed into the Criterion Collection in 2009 and is currently streaming on Max.
92% on whose side?
On the critic side. The viewer side was in the 70s, I believe.
Yep.
There was also no critics consensus because 5 movie critics have reviewed this.
Oh, yeah. I was actually looking up reviews to do for bad Google reviews at the end, and all of the 1-star reviews were exactly the same. Like, this is really boring. Don't watch this. Very boring. Blah, blah, blah. And then I went to 2-star, nothing. Then I went to 3-star, nothing. Only 4 and 5 stars. So you either hate this movie or you really like it. That is it. There's no, it was all right.
There are certain movies made that people are afraid to admit they don't like.
Yep.
Because then they look like the idiot in the room. And sometimes, sometimes they are wrong. Like Citizen Kane, for instance, is an amazing movie. That is a fantastic movie. And if you don't like it, I guess it's not your cup of tea, but I recommend watching it because it is a brilliant story of one man's downfall. But like films like, for example, Breathless, 1960, Jean-Luc Godard. I've seen that movie twice. I fucking hate it with everything I have. It is considered one of the greatest, maybe the greatest French movie ever made. Started the French New Wave era of film. It is about an asshole stealing a car, being a bitch to his girlfriend, and then just fucking off. That's the whole movie. There is nothing of substance in that movie. I will fight anybody on that.
Yeah.
And it took a while for me to be able to kind of go up against classic revered movies and just say I don't like them. Because I used to think like, well, I don't want to be singled out, but then I'm like, well, by who? Who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Your opinion is your opinion. If you don't like it, you don't like it. Move on. So that's kind of where I'm at now. If I don't like something, I just say like, well, this was garbage. Here's why, and I'll see you next time.
Yeah.
I disagree with this. I thought this was pretty good. For a movie that's just 2 dudes talking to each other about crazy nonsense I can't really relate to, it's pretty good.
Yeah. I was actually, honestly, you're going to laugh at me, but when I walked out of Dial of Destiny and I thoroughly enjoyed it, I was kind of scared to tell you.
It's fine. I'm never gonna, I'll refute and I'll discuss, but I will never attack you for having an opinion that's different than mine.
Yeah, I know. It's just something so ingrained in our society.
Yeah. It comes up in this movie. You don't want to upset people. So you just say crazy shit that you might completely disagree with.
Exactly.
Because the social contract tells you don't upset people.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it is nothing, yeah. Okay, I can relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
With that, let's give this film some awards. Cool. We have the Quentin Tarantino Award for the best line of the movie, the Thomas Newman Award for the best music moment, which will be hard. There's about 1 or 2 scenes of music in this movie.
Yeah.
The Philip Seymour Hoffman Award for the best performance. It's a flip of the coin here. And the John Carpenter Award for the best scene. So let's do the best line. What do you got?
Boy, this was a hard movie to pick my favorite line because this movie is nothing but lines. Let me tell you, that's like choosing your favorite line in a fucking podcast, or this was or your favorite quote in the entire Harry Potter series.
You almost expect at the end of it to hear Wallace Shawn just whisper, and I'd like to thank BetterHelp for sponsoring this movie.
So favorite line, right? There's a lot in this movie. Every time someone would say something more profound, I was like, oh man, that's really good. That really hit home for me. Especially the last line of the movie. It's not what I picked, but the last line of the movie was great when he was like, because again, this goes back to like the Buddhism side of stuff that I'm reading up on now, and then I also looked into Stoicism. But anyway, at the end of the movie, Andre says, he says something along the lines of like, what is a father, a son, a mother? Because at one moment you're holding a baby's hand, and then the big man is standing up to this guy, and then what is a son? And I thought that was great. But my favorite line in the entire movie, sorry, I went off on a tangent there. Favorite line of the movie is Andre says, if you're just operating by habit, you're not really living. And I really enjoyed that. Have you seen Stranger Than Fiction?
A long time ago. I remember the gist. Yeah.
I love that movie, man. And that is the biggest thing I agree with Andre is, yeah, if you want to like chill, live your life, that's fine. But like, maybe try to be a little bit present to appreciate stuff that's going on around you right now. I think that's important, being present. Yeah, I don't know. There's just something that really stuck out to me from Andre.
There's no point in living if you don't feel alive.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's from a James Bond movie, Tomorrow Never Dies, 1997.
That's good.
Yeah. You never know when some profound shit's going to find its way into your ear hole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good one. I like that. And it's a good point. If you do feel like there is something missing in your life, it's only, you're the only one who can fix that.
Yeah.
You just have to find out what it is and do something about it. And sometimes that means making some really tough decisions.
Yeah.
I like that. I recently just, changed cities, kind of got a new job, fresh start for me. So I'm kind of in the midst of that transition right now. I also went with something from Wally, which is funny. I almost picked his opening narration when he's talking about growing up in New York, and he says, when I was 10 years old, I was rich. I was an aristocrat, riding around in taxis, surrounded by comfort, and all I thought about was art and music. Now I'm 36, and all I think about is money. I loved that. I was like, yeah, when we're kids, we're king of the world. Everything's the best. And then at one point, you don't even remember the day it happened, but at one point you grew up. And now you got to deal with taxes and heartbreak and health insurance. And it's just like, where's the fun? The fun's gone. You got to look really fucking hard to find the fun now.
Yeah. That's a good point. I think we talked about it when we did Krampus, but the fact that Christmas felt so different when we were kids.
Yeah.
It felt warm, cozy, and nostalgic because we were kids. We didn't have to worry about anything. Now, Christmas, it still is my favorite time of year. It still is, not to be corny, it is still pretty magical, but does not hit like it used to. I don't know what happened. Well, I do. I grew up, but yeah, weird.
I am worried that one day I'm not going to hear the bells, and that's gonna be the moment where I'm like, "Yep, little Connor's dead."
Funnily enough, that's why my favorite movie is Hook.
Yeah, the lesson in that movie though is like, you have to grow up. Like,
yeah,
we all gotta kill Captain Hook.
Yeah,
I love that movie. I didn't pick that one though. That was just something I was like, I went with a bit of a monologue because this is a bit long. It's from Wally. We all know the theater is in terrible shape today. I mean, at least a few years ago, people who really cared about the theater used to say the theater is dead. And now everybody's redefined the theater in such a trivial way that, I mean, God, I know people who are involved with the theater who go to see things now that, I mean, a few years ago, these same people would have just been embarrassed to have even seen some of these plays.
Yeah.
They would have just shrunk in horror at the superficiality of these things. But now they say, oh, that was pretty good. It's just incredible. And I really just find that attitude unbearable because I really do think the theater can do something very important. I do think the theater can help bring people in contact with reality. I related to that so fucking much. Just replace theater with movie theater. I've been saying that shit for years. Just, it's so oversaturated with nonsense that the stuff that really matters falls through the cracks. And stuff's getting praised that critics years ago would have just been like, blah, like not even, it's amazing. And just watching these movies, films like Transformers Rise of the Beasts, like the seventh Transformers movie, still here, still making bank, still getting some critical praise. And I'm just thinking like, why? What? Like, Are we really completely out of original ideas that we're just regurgitating big robots again and again and again? Like
Mm-hmm.
all I want is some, just something I haven't seen before, something unique, something with some heart, something that has some balls and some, something to say. And I found a couple of those, but with new releases, it just doesn't happen anymore. And with Hollywood pretty much completely on strike now, I don't know if it'll ever happen again.
Yeah, that is pretty scary to think about.
Yeah, that's why I love going to the past. Finding films like The Vanishing. A Dutch movie that is going to stay with me because it was original and it was creative and it was freaky and different. So yeah, Wally. He's talking about the theater, but you know he's talking about art. Really,
Yeah,
art
yeah,
becomes commercialized. Suddenly, the soul of it is in danger,
yeah.
and it's up to the audience to fight back on that and go see the stuff that's $30 million budget, couple of indie film stars doing something new, and maybe don't go see I know I'm a hypocrite because I liked it, but don't go see The Flash. Indiana Jones, is a great example. It's not going to make its money back because people can
No.
tell it was made in a factory.
Yeah.
Oh, good quotes.
I feel bad now because you copied an entire monologue, but for my favorite scene, which is another quote, weirdly, because that's all this.
Yeah.
I didn't write the entire monologue, so
Oh, I didn't write the entire monologue for the scene I picked either.
okay.
Yeah, just the line. Because usually I'll copy and paste from IMDb's like list of quotes, but the one I wanted wasn't there, so I had to
Oh,
like pause and transcribe this. So
gotcha.
took a while. The Thomas Newman Award, the best music moment. I mean,
I
what
mean,
what do we got?
the end credits. I don't know.
Yep. The only
That's the
music in this
only
movie.
time music plays in this movie. Um, I did like it though. I like how what Andre says at the very end, about like what's the point of everything if you're just gonna die at the end? Like appreciate life. That's basically what he said at the end. Appreciate life and only care about yourself because at the end of the day, nothing else matters. Which that's one of like the that's one of like the biggest, you know, soul searching ideas I've had for a while. I had it when I first played Soma. I don't know if you've played Soma, but it's a game about sorry, this is might be a little bit of a tangent, but you play as a guy who has his brain is bleeding very badly and they can't do anything about it. So this guy says, "Hey, I'll tell you what. I'll take a scan of your brain, and then in a couple hundred years, if we figure out a way to put you into a robot, we will."
Yeah, you
So
told
that
me about this.
happens. Yeah. So he gets the brain scan, and then the game starts again, and you are underwater somewhere, like thousands of years in the future, in this like underwater facility. And the whole like thought of like the whole theme of the game is like what makes us human? Like is it our bodies? Is it our soul? Like what really matters? Like the life that you have. It doesn't matter. Basically, it comes down to it in the game. It doesn't matter if you're a robot with a brain or a human with a brain. Your thoughts, your conscious, your life matters. So that's like one of the biggest existential crisis, I've had. So at the end of the movie, when he says that, and then that music plays, I kind of just sat there for a second. I was eating Church's chicken, weirdly, and I kind of sat there with a fucking huge ear of corn in my hands, like holy shit, you know.
It's a profound thing to think about. Some lonesome, sad piano is just gonna hammer that shit home. It was a good choice. It was a conscious choice.
Yeah,
In regards to yeah,
and at the same time, while he's driving home, like, and he kind of is reflecting on what Andre said. He was like, "Oh shit, okay, maybe I do need to like think deeper about the things that I do."
I wonder if he left Debbie. In regards to that whole, what's the point of living if, at the end of it we just die? I think of the great philosopher Peter LaFleur, who once said, I find that if you have a goal, you might not reach it. But if you
Yeah,
don't have one, then you are never disappointed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's Vince Vaughn's character from Dodgeball, by the way.
Yeah. I know.
It's good advice, you know. I mean, enjoy it is the best advice you can get. You know, have something, have a goal, you know, something to aspire to, but also realize that your dream may not work out the way you think it will, or might not happen at all. In which case, find another one. You know, yeah,
That's the biggest plot point of Treasure Planet. And that's why I love that movie so fucking much, because they fail at the end of the movie. They don't get any of the treasure, but they got there. So, you know, and they found each other.
I truly do believe that the real treasure is the friendships you make along the way. I believe that about life. That you might not get where you're going, but on the way, you're gonna find something.
Yeah.
And it's important to recognize those moments. You know, recognize a fork in the road when you come to one. That's the best thing you can do in life, is understand when you have a moment of choice. And to make the right one. Whether or not, you know, you might not realize you made the right one or the wrong one years down the road. But it's important to work towards your own happiness. Be happy. You know, try. Best performance. Who won for you?
So honestly, it was Wallace Shawn. Just because he really sold that, like, fuck, I really don't want to be here, and then slowly getting lulled. Wallace was me throughout the entire movie. I was like, I don't, like 10 minutes in, I was like, I really don't want to watch this movie. And then as Andre just kept talking and spewing his bullshit, I was like, okay, this is actually really interesting. And then the last like 20 minutes of the movie, I like actually sat down and watched it as if it were a movie, and I was like nodding to what like either of them were saying, or I was like shaking my head. I was like really invested. So yeah, Wallace Shawn, he just really sold that that, oh man, that's crazy feel.
Yeah. This movie's the closest to a like manifesto kind of movie that I've ever seen, where it's just nothing really connects, but there's a message here that might inspire the wrong people to make some bad decisions.
Yeah.
I also went Wallace Shawn for the same reasons. It's in that first half where he's just like, oh, great. When's the meal getting here? Like, it's kind of like, this is nuts. Wow. So he never asked a follow-up question. He's just like, oh. And then what happened?
Yeah, exactly. He's like, so that was Christmas. What happened after that?
Yeah. I love when Andre's like, you really want to hear all this? And he's like, yeah. When he's looking at him with this like what look on his face, and Andres is not picking up on that because he's enjoying just talking. He's enjoying the sound of his own voice.
Yeah,
it's hilarious. Yeah. Oh yeah, Wallace Shawn, good on that.
Recording in progress.
Okay, finally we've got the John Carpenter Award for the best scene. Or it's hard to pinpoint scene. Like best monologue. Which one was it?
Honestly, it was again Wally. It was his cockroach in the coffee monologue. I really liked that one. He was like, that's when he finally, I feel like that's when he finally had enough of Andre's, philosopher bullshit. And he's like, no, because you know what? I'm happy where I am. I'm happy right now. I don't think Wally is entirely happy. I think he's going to go the Andre route. But what he said is true for a lot of people. It's okay to be happy with where you are. It's okay to, to look forward to having cold coffee in the morning. And that's fine. You can find happiness in life even if you don't climb Everest. And with me right now, I'm 24 years old. I have an entire life ahead of me, and I'm still thinking about like what I want to do with my life, but I'm happy right now. Things could be a lot worse. I could have a cockroach in my coffee, and I don't. So I'm happy.
Yeah, I went with the exact same scene. I thought that was great. I was waiting the whole movie for Wally to just be like, dude, shut the fuck up. And finally, at the end, he's like, "Who are you to define happiness?"
Yeah.
I love that. He finally, yeah, it's a great. I'm 28, and I just got a master's degree in history, but I work for a company transcribing audio recordings. Like it's nothing, got nothing to do with my degree, but I'm making enough money to be self-sufficient. I just moved to Austin. I'm doing well. I'm happy. And I've got, I've got people in my life who think I should be doing more. And that's my decision. If I'm happy, what difference does it make?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
It's, yeah. People, I think, especially right now, especially in our generation, I can kind of see a shift happening mostly because I am on TikTok, so it could just be the crowd on there. But the people who use TikTok the most are people our age. This new generation, they are becoming, the I don't know, the adults, I say. Like we I feel like this is going to sound really corny, but someone said to me the other day that TikTok is the world's coming to age movie, like coming of age story, because like we're all on there. Like everyone's on there, but mostly our age. Anyway, huge shift where I think people are starting to realize it's okay to not have a career as long as you can live happily, comfortably, and do what you want to do. I am, I have a government job right now, and I'm not entirely, just my own opinions. I'm not entirely fulfilled in my job, and that's okay. I feel like I should be okay with that. I just want to be able to make enough money to travel. That's it. That's my only. I want to be able to do this podcast. Hopefully, maybe start my own stuff in the future and travel. That's it. So I don't care what job I have as long as I'm happy and comfortable.
That is something I have had to argue with my family so many times because they feel that I have to be fulfilled with a career, regardless of what that career is. And I'm of the mindset that as long as I'm supporting myself, I can find fulfillment in things that I really do care about, like film and friends and this podcast and my work. And that's okay with me. This job I have is, everyone there is friendly. I make good money. That's fine. I don't need to be fucking Robin Williams and Dead Poet Society. That's just not what I want to do right now. If I decide in 10 years, maybe I do want to be a teacher, then great. But I don't know if I'm going to want to decide that. I don't know where my life's going to go in that direction. I'm just enjoying the ride as it comes and trying to make the most of what I have right now.
Yeah. Be fulfilled in your life, not your work. Your work isn't your life.
Exactly. And our generation's like the first one to finally like fight for that.
Yeah.
I'm very happy about that. And like my mom and my grandparents, like they don't understand that.
Yeah.
Because that's just not how they were raised. They were raised, find a career, raise a family. That's it.
Yeah. You can call us lazy, but I beg to differ. I think we're probably some of the least lazy people, because we don't want to work until we're fucking 60, 70 years old, retire on a beach somewhere for 2 weeks and then die. That doesn't sound like a very, I'm not going to work for retirement when I can have a pretty steady, decent job with decent pay, travel now, and then, fuck it. Once I'm old, I'm old. Like,
the enticement for work used to be you work so you can support a family, so you can buy a house, so you can participate in society. But the rate it's going now, like nobody can do that anymore.
No,
inflation has fucked us up to the point where like we're just happy to skate by with what we got.
Yeah, and I don't want to. I don't want kids. I don't want, especially like the way like you just said, the way things are going now. I don't want to raise kids in this society, at least not. Yeah, at least not now. I don't want to raise kids in the time that we live in currently. I just heard a new story about 2 lesbian women that kissed in a public park in Florida, and a kid happened to see them kiss. They just kissed. That's it. And the mom called the cops on them, and now they are in prison. And Florida also just passed a law that if you get arrested for sexual harassment, which is what they got arrested for, because that's what, that was the charge, you can be put to death. So I don't want to raise kids in this time anymore. So I don't have a need to get ready for the future because I want to live now. And that's probably an irresponsible mindset, but I'm happy doing it right now. I feel like
it's very responsible. There's too many fucking people here as it is. So I thank you for not adding to the problem.
No, I mean, it's irresponsible to just live in the moment. A lot of people think it's irresponsible to live in the moment and not care about having a career. I feel like we are the his name was Alexander Supertramp, the guy from Into the Wild. I feel like we are the Alexander Supertramp of society today. We're not going to go to Alaska and kill ourselves, but I don't want to work until I'm 60 and then retire. That doesn't sound like a good plan. I'm happy right now.
Well, my whole mindset is, who the fuck is anybody to tell me how to live my life?
Yeah.
It's mine. I get one. This is the one I got. Luck of the draw, I guess. I'm going to live it my way. So fuck off. I don't care if anybody thinks I'm not doing it right. That's my decision. Yeah. So yeah, I don't respect anybody who tries to tell me how to live in any capacity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm an adult, goddammit. As of an hour and 11 minutes ago, I am 24 years old. I don't give a damn what anyone says. This is a good episode to be doing on my birthday, by the way.
The words of SpongeBob SquarePants, I am a man. All right. Let's take a look at what Letterboxd has to say on our final segment here. What's in the box?
What's in the fucking box? Give me the gun.
No surprise here. 4.1 out of 5. Letterboxd is where the film snobs go to migrate and talk amongst themselves. So there's a lot of love here, but there's also a couple people who are like, "Fuck this." So I got 4 here. 2 good, 2 bad.
Is one of them Todd?
No Todd. Whoever that may be. I friended the guys. So when I check every time now, every movie we do, I check because I'm like, what does Todd have to say?
Yeah. For those of you who don't understand, we'll explain it when you're older.
Yeah, you'll find out in October. Oh, okay. This first one's from Vinny Sims. Somewhere, Richard Linklater just got a boner. 3.5 stars.
Oh, yeah. That's good.
Yep. This film is one beautiful French woman away from being before sunrise.
Yeah.
This one's from David Chen. The OG rambling 2-hour film podcast. 4 stars.
Wow.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, everyone was just like, yeah, I wonder how many podcasts this movie has inspired, and then they ran out of shit to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay, now for a negative one from Sifi. One of the most abhorrent movies I've ever had the displeasure of sitting through. The first half is a nonstop monologue about these random things some weird guy did that has a million side notes, follows a confusing flow of logic, and has no point, no matter how many disjointed and uninteresting stories you hear. And then the second half is the most pretentious pseudo-philosophy bullshit I've ever heard. It's just 2 hours of a relentless flow of absurd thoughts and ideas written by someone who thinks they're smarter than everyone just because they've done a bit of introspection. 0.5 star. And you know what? They're not wrong.
They're not wrong, no. But I do think some of the stories he told were interesting, especially the one of him getting buried alive. That was fucking... I was like, oh, shit. What the fuck happened to you, bro? You're raped or something? Shit.
Well, it's a good life lesson to not just put a blindfold on in the jungle somewhere and let nature take its course.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I do want to point out something I did really like about this was I know this movie was made in the 80s, but it really does feel like two people talking. Like the fact that he did go on so many side tangents reminded me honestly of this podcast. Like it feels very real. Like I genuinely believed that they were having a normal conversation.
Yeah. I wish there was more stumbles, like
yeah.
struggling to get your words out. That we don't see that a lot in film.
No. Especially me. I stumble all the time.
Yeah, I Porky Pig it through a lot of conversations.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally understand that approach to this. It is, Andre is pretentious as shit. He's the guy at the party who's like, he feels like the kind of guy who's gonna one up your conversation, like your story, no matter what it is. Like, oh, you think that was cool? Well, I got buried alive in the jungle, like by a bunch of natives for a reason, and then we danced the night away on the beach. Like, neat.
Yeah.
And this last one is from Eyzaguirre. How many more hours is this going to take? Half a star. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
For those of you who are interested, Criterion on Barnes and Noble is having a Criterion sale through July, and you can snatch this up for $20.
Yeah, or if you have Max, watch it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the kind of guy who has to own a movie like this, I mean, okay.
If you're the kind of guy that has to own a movie like this, you probably are listening to the wrong podcast.
Yeah, I'm good. I don't think I'll watch this again. I liked it. It's a 3.5 out of 5 stars for me, but I don't think I'm gonna ever watch this again.
No. Yeah.
Well, did you have any Google reviews you wanted to share?
So maybe I saw a couple, but they're all like, "Oh, this is boring. I didn't like it." But no, they're all the same. This one is pretty funny. It's by David Parrish. 1 star. It says, "I am 83 years old and have watched many, many movies, regardless of critical reviews. My Dinner with Andre is the most boring and uninteresting movie I have ever seen. I should have asked for my money back. Number 1 worst movie."
That's harsh.
Yeah, that I feel like that. Yeah, that's really harsh.
I've seen a lot of shit way more boring than this.
This is a 5-star review that is in stark contrast to what that person just said. Oh God, it's okay. My Dinner with Andre is one of the best movies I have ever seen. I've watched 49 movies just in 2020 and have never seen this absolute gem of a film. The extraordinary storyline that goes all the way to questioning the meaning of life could not be more appropriate in 1981 than it is in 2020. I pray to God there is a remake. I pray to God there isn't a remake. It is absolutely perfect as it is. Okay. Good for you.
When you started that, it sounded so similar to the other guy. I thought you were going to be like, I'm 83 and I've seen a lot of movies. Like, it's the same fucking dude. Yeah, I recommend it. You know what? It's philosophical. It's insightful. It's an interesting conversation. I would love to know why that waiter hated Wally so much.
Yeah, that was weird.
I kept expecting him to say something.
Yeah.
But nah, I guess,
why did he look so familiar?
Restaurants. I don't know. But waiters in fancy restaurants, there's a decorum you don't break and you don't insult the customers.
Yeah, that's fair.
I wonder if he was like Jewish and didn't like the Nazi stuff they were talking about.
Because he walked by, he was like, "Is there a problem?" He was like, "No," and then he just stared at him.
Well, that's our episode. Thanks for listening, everybody. If you like what we do, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Filmgazm Productions. If you want to suggest films for us to check out, you can email us at filmgazm@gmail.com or send us a message through the socials. Check out our Letterboxd accounts for daily reviews. You can search for me at Connor95. And in my friends list, you can find the rest of the team. Check out our website, filmgazm.com, where I have a link to that letterbox if you want to read reviews. And you can also find articles, trailers of upcoming films, and every episode of our show. If you'd like to become a monthly donor to Filmgazm Productions, click on the link in the episode description. From there, click on Support This Podcast. You can choose to donate $1 a month, $5 a month, or $10 a month. All donations go right back into the podcast. Thanks to the entire Filmgazm team for their contributions. Thanks to Cooley Cal for our awesome theme music. And thanks to you for checking out our show. Remember to find joy in the little things that life has to offer and to let your friend participate in the conversation once in a while. Take it easy, keep watching movies, and we'll see you next time.